Hi everybody, welcome back to Flames Pyro Art for Beginners. I'll turn the light on and see if that helps a little. Today I just thought I would do a little piece on human hair. I've been working on this portrait of this lady. It was something that I started a little over a year ago and was just in my pile of, to-dos like you do. You have, lots of different projects on the go, don't you? And you put them down to one side and then one day you pick them back up. And so I picked it back up yesterday, and I've started adding some hair to this lady's portrait, and I just thought I would share with you some of the experimentation that I've been doing. What I've found with human hair, because I know a lot of us are all daunted by human hair, but it is really forgiving. And if you look at, say, a picture of somebody and the hair is just all over the place. I mean, here is the original picture of this lady, and you can just see her hair's just everywhere. So you can pretty much just use your imagination and go with the flow with hair, where you don't have to get every strand of hair in the correct place. As long as it has a flowing structure to it and resembles the person's hair, then that's all you really need to do. Now, what I've found as well is, let's take this branch of hair here for example. Obviously at the moment it's all very flat and one tone, but when we're doing hair, we're not actually looking at the strands of hair, we're looking at actually what's in between them, what's underneath, say the clump of hair. And so if you darken off behind, say there's a little clump, and if you darken areas off, you will push that hair back. You'll push it deeper compared to the light strands that you have nearer to the eye. You can actually push the other strands deeper in, into the gaps. Get a fine, I'm using my extra small space shader. I've got my setting at just under 3, so I'm burning quite hot for this pen. And I've just been using my imagination, experimenting, and I've found that there's a world of opportunities to show depth and great detail to hair if you just clear your mind, just use your imagination as to how you think the hair would fall. It is a bit time consuming. You have to take your time and darken some areas, leave some areas lighter to build the depth of hair up. So we're going to work on this little patch for 15-20 minutes, and we'll see what effects we can come up with. So obviously I don't want all this hair to be on the same level. I'm looking to push some of it back deeper. you know, to get some volume into the hair. And she's got some strands that come across the front, so we leave them quite light. We can add a highlight, I suppose, underneath them, you know, to make them stand out that little bit more. Just gently, ever so slightly touching underneath these front strands that are the nearest to us. Then obviously you don't want to colour the whole thing in one shade. You need to have a variety of shading to build the different tones and the depth of the hair. Like up here we've got like where there's a little V, so we've got all hair coming out of this area. So here we've got a little triangle where there's a darkest point, and then if you think about the hair that's coming this way, the shadows would fall on the inside, you know, as this hair is laying on top of each other. Maybe best switching over. Let me see if I can find my smallest ball tip. I do have one. That was some modified writing tip, but it actually works really well because it is so small that I think it would work brilliantly to get in between these strands of hair. If you see, it's a really small ball tip, which will be perfect for what we're doing now. I've just turned the heat down to number 2. I'm just testing on some of the darker areas just to see how the heat will go. But with this small ball tip, you've got even more control. I find it quite therapeutic to sit and just try and build a full long-haired person's head of hair. So we're not worried about each strand, as I said. It's more what's in between, what's beneath the strands, that really gives the hair more depth and a better look. I would advise anyone to practice, maybe draw out a person and just create your own head of hair on them. Just going to work away for a few minutes and just keep it recording, and hopefully you'll see the results as I go. So I've got the sniffles today, hay fever season. You could literally get lost for hours. I know I've got lost for all of yesterday for hours, just working away at building this up. So we've got a hair really falling over a face, over half a face shot, which has helped that I don't have to burn the other half of this lady's face in. This is just a practice piece. And I haven't got commissions to do practice every day on different subjects, and you know, one area that I really needed to look at was hair. So I thought, what better time now to have a couple of days examining and creating this lady's really long bonnet of hair. Now I've got some swirls and curls that we're going to have at the front. So let's say here we've got this swirl going on, so what's behind it, we want to push that back. Do that just by darkening the lines and stuff we put behind. You can have it overlapping each other. There's just so much you can do. And I was one of the people I really feared of tackling hair. I've tried it a few times in the past, unsuccessfully. But I feel now I'm at the stage of my pyrography journey where I should be able to master, or certainly improve on my skills of creating hair. I know we all burn lots of animals all the time, but then sometimes you do see some amazing portrait art of human subjects. Here, I want to really push some of this hair in deep. This pen may need a clean because after the nightmare elm experience that I had, it did do a lot of damage to my tips and carboned them up. Not something I'm going to be doing again. It's burning on elm. It's just too hard a wood, it's rock hard. I can still feel there's a build up on this tip. I feel it's more scratchy than flowing to just get your leather strap out. Give it a bit of a clean up. Get any carbon off that's on there. Sometimes you can just turn your heat up as well, just get the pen glowing, just get the polish off, turn it back down, let it cool back down a little before you touch down. And that's flowing much more nicely. Again, now it's flowing smoothly. I could feel it was grabbing and scratching rather than gliding over the wood. When you start feeling it scratching and dragging, it can be from carbon build up on your tip. Never use sandpaper. I know I was a sandpaper user when I first started pyrography, so I know from experience that new pyrographers take sandpaper to the tips to get the carbon off. That is the worst thing you can do. You're damaging your tips. Not only are you taking the oxidization layer off, you're also grinding away at the tip. Never use sandpaper, never use a tea strainer. Use either, you can, if you've got a leather belt, an old leather belt, that can work. You buy special polishing compound which comes in a block like this. You dab your pen tip in, heat it up, polish it on the strop, but you don't want to over polish your tips either. Apparently you can over polish them and strip the oxidization layer off, which builds up over time, which you want to leave that on the tip. When it discolours, tips shouldn't be shiny silver all the time. Maybe when they're brand new and they're not being used, they'll be shiny silver, but after use for a little bit, they will dull, and that's just the oxidization. You will know when you've got carbon build-up. You'll either feel it with your fingernail. If you rub your nail along it, you'll feel like a little lump. Or, for example, what I felt a minute ago when I was doing this was like a scratching and dragging effect. I can just happily sit here all day and just play about, experiment with things, just see what works, what doesn't. That's one of the magical things with art. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. There's just your way. Whatever works for you with your experimenting, then that is your unique style. Everybody has their own style. Like with some of these videos, all I'm doing is just showing you some of the things we can do to give different looks to a pyrography. See, this piece is going to sit forward, so we'd be wanting some darker hair, some darkness behind that. I'm going to switch back to the extra small spear tip. It's getting a much better glide. I need to have a look at that other pen. I know I was using it on that elm, and I think it needs a proper clean. we've got this strand here that's coming and sitting underneath. This we can at the front, the nearest part here, that's where you have your detail, everything that you're pushing back. You're not so worried about super fine detail. You're just darkening and pushing areas back all the time, bringing areas forward. Maybe capturing highlights, you know, if you've got a photograph and they've got like a sheen in the hair, you can, with one of your pens, you have to find, like, say, a flat round would be good for like shading the brown hair in, and then you could leave areas highlighted lighter. These are areas that want to keep front and forward. So no, there has to be, I'm going to turn it up a little bit, just to 2.5. Has to be some darker hair. You can follow some patterns for a while, follow a shape down. Because hair goes all over the place, and especially when you saw the picture of that lady, the hair is just everywhere. Basically gives you the license just to come up with your own theme. I know that's a very brief look today. I don't know how many minutes we've been running. For some reason my clock's not saying that it's 28 minutes. So it's just a very brief introduction to how we would burn hair and some of the thought processes involved. Like I said, it's looking not so much at each strand, it's looking at what's underneath the strands, building layers upon layers, by darker to lighter, pushing areas back, bringing areas forward, and just play around, have some fun, and see where it takes you. And I will catch up with this video a bit later on, in a few hours after I've carried on working on this lady, and we'll see where we're at then. So I shall speak to you all soon. Take care for now, and I will revisit you in a few hours time. Okay, take care for now, guys. Bye.
Are you part of the family? Are you a relative? Oh, just spiked. Yep, spiked. Please tell us your name.